welcome to today's episode on the Moving from Fear to Trust series. I am so excited to be joined today by Deirdre McCafferty from Cornucopia. And it's really special for me to have Deirdre on here as a guest because she was so instrumental for me last year, which was only feels like so long ago now, but it's, so much has happened since then. But I remember just a couple of weeks after my mom's funeral, I had a conversation with you, and I remember I was actually sitting in my aunt's garden and you just gave me a really important nugget and a really like a piece of wisdom that I really held on to, and that is like you find yourself in a valley. Well, we'll share like how you came to that understanding your own self, but
Yes,
that you find yourself in a valley like after losing a loved one, and that you have two choices, that you either stay there or you metamorphosize, that you grow those parts of yourself and transform. And I remember you just sharing that with me just gave me so much strength because I didn't really know what was happening. It was a very, very
very
hard place
touching.
to be in. So
Very
welcome
touching.
anyway. Firstly, thank you
Thank
so
you
much for
very
coming
much,
on.
Aisling. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Aisling. I'm so delighted to be here. And you and I are such good friends, from you being a customer in Cornucopia and your campaign about the fluoride. And we got to know each other, and I got to know your mother, and then her tragic loss. And then I could really relate, I think, because I had been there myself when I lost my husband, Neil. Now that's
Yeah.
25 years ago, but I was a young woman of 39, and we had been together for 20 years, and I really didn't know. He was the earth and the sky to me. So it was because we had been together for so young and so long. So I
Mm-hmm.
remember, a lot of metaphors
Yeah.
helping me, but that metaphor about finding yourself through extreme loss in a sheer valley with no no ability to climb up the sheerness of it because it was just sheer rock.
Mm-hmm.
So, and being down in this sort of crater in the middle of it, and realizing that I really had to become something different in order to leave that valley. The old me in a way had to die too, and the new me had to grow wings. That was my
Yeah.
metaphor. I had to, a bit like a phoenix out of its ashes too,
Mm-hmm.
So I remember thinking, well, the same Deirdre can't exist anymore. That Deirdre has to die also. A
Yeah.
new Deirdre has to be born in order to deal with these new circumstances,
Yeah.
which for me was small children and a challenging business, and all the loss, I suppose,
Mm-hmm.
is presence too, or
Yeah.
the person, the absence of the persons is the absence of a person when they pass
Mm.
can be a presence
Yeah.
also. So it was clear that I was going to need to become a much stronger person. And I did take inspiration. In my mind, I always thought of women and men who carry their parents across deserts, and I realized that this planet is a very challenging place, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not a bed of roses, so we
Yeah.
do have to grow the muscles
Mm-hmm.
to survive. And I took inspiration from what I imagined other women would be doing,
Yeah.
much more challenging circumstances than living in the first world.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I thought, well, what is this new person going to be with these wings,
Yeah.
or this new phoenix, or whatever? And I thought, well, they need to be a more spiritual person,
Mm-hmm.
because it's really inner strength that is what this is about.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, it's very important to have the supports on the outside. And I have to say, friends to me, as well as family, were invaluable. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, my friends. So the support you can get from other people. But those wings did include the friends and the practicalities of life, health,
Yeah.
physical health, and financial balance, and having a home, and all the practical things. But then the inner strength of being calm, forgiveness, acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
all those good spiritual tenets that one
Yeah.
finds in all different spiritual traditions
Mm.
really helped me, Aisling, at
Yeah.
the time. So I was delighted to be able to pass it on to you, because my God,
Yeah.
I knew it was such familiar territory to
Oh, I
me.
know. But what I loved about that was because to me, you're like a beacon, like a lighthouse, in that you have gone through that experience and you've gone on to create so much wonderful work in the world. And you're just like, yeah, just such an inspiring person to me. So I think it's so important to have that, you know, to when you are in that place, to actually have people that you can look to for, yes, if they have, you know, they were able to kind of get the strength, so can I.
They've
Do you know,
been
it's,
there. They've
I
been
think
there. Yeah,
it's
they've
very
been there.
important to have that.
Yeah. And you and your mother work so closely together.
Yeah,
So in many ways, I know that you must be inspired by carrying on her work,
absolutely. Yeah,
especially because her life was interrupted early. She
yeah,
didn't live the full life cycle.
yeah.
So I have also, my parents have passed, you know, in their 80s
Mhm.
and 90s. And that's a very different experience than somebody whose life is cut short early.
Yeah,
Like Neil was 40 and your
yeah.
mum, I'm sure, wasn't in her 60s yet. So
She was only 50. She was 55 when she was in hospital, so she was 56 when she
yeah,
passed
so
away. Yeah.
that's cut short. We all
Mhm.
have this, I don't know where we get it, this expectation that we're going to live into our 90s.
Oh
But
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it always strikes me as funny too that children will say, that's not fair. We seem to be born with this
yeah,
sense that life should be fair to us. And
yeah,
it's not necessarily so, you
yeah,
know. So
yeah.
life for many people, my God, 50 used to be a full life expectancy, isn't it?
I
But
know.
anyway, we seem to have this expectation that we can be around and
Hmm.
live in first world conditions fully and happily until our 90s.
I know.
And I suppose maybe that's not a bad thing that we
Yeah.
have that expectation. But however, to go back to my point is that it's very motivating when one has worked closely with somebody
Hmm.
to realize a dream. If they pass, you do want to carry the banner for them
I
and
know.
finish it. And I
Yeah.
suppose that's been a huge motivation for Neil and I. Set up Cornucopia with such excitement in
Yeah.
our early 30s and such hard work. I mean, literally, it was very much Ireland of that time. We did our own carpentry, we did our own painting,
Yeah.
we did our own physical renovations. We physically built the bins in my
Yeah.
mother's back garden that we had all the Whole Foods in, and we did everything. We were very hands-on, as well as me being pregnant with
Yeah.
Roshi, who's now in her 30s. And it was
Amazing.
very much that. So when you do something like that, you know, when you commit
Mm.
yourself to it, it did become my life's work.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I never really run out of motivation
Yeah.
for cornucopia and for providing great food for people. I suppose
Oh
that's
yeah. Well,
simply what it
it's,
is.
if anyone listening, and if you're ever in Dublin, please go to Cornucopia. It's like just the best restaurant ever. And oh my gosh, I can't even
Thank
count
you.
how many meals I've had there, but it's just like my go-to whenever I'm in Dublin.
It's
I
Whole
just love it.
Foods.
Yeah.
That's it. It's Whole Foods,
Yeah.
and we have gone more towards vegan now because that's where the demand is and where the
Hmm.
world is evolving
Yeah.
into more plant-based eating. So we're providing that for people. 95% of what we have is vegan, and
Hmm.
we just won a lovely accolade for
Yeah.
our
The
new
award.
vegan cookbook, Cornucopia
Yeah.
the Green Cookbook. It was such fun being at the at the Unpost Awards in the convention centre. It was so posh, and
Yeah.
Tony, that's our head chef, Tony Kyo, and myself, we were all dressed up, and we
Yeah.
walked up to the stage to accept our award as the cookbook of the year. And it was
That's amazing.
definitely
Yeah.
a bit of a moment where it's the opposite extreme
Yeah.
of being sad. It was such a high. We were in a dream, you
I
know.
know.
We were
But
celebrities.
but I love how, like, you know, you've come to this place like with the cookbook now. Well, it's your second cookbook, and which I cannot wait to get my hands on, because I have your first cookbook, and it's like my, you know, if I'm doing a dinner party, which is quite rare, but like Christmas time and, you know, like fancy times, I'm like,
Yeah,
that's my go-to for making really delicious meals. So I can't wait to
yeah.
get my copy of the green,
I think this one is even better if that's possible. It's
yeah,
really,
yeah,
the people have been saying it's very easy to negotiate.
yeah, yeah, I can't
And the
wait.
recipes are all plant-based
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
vegan, so it's really great. And Tony has lots of, so it's quite a culinary book. Tony
Yeah.
has lots of hints in there as to
Hmm.
how to make cashew creams and
Oh,
jackfruit
lovely.
sausages and
Oh, cool.
things that are
Very
very
good.
plant-based but very tasty.
Yeah, yeah.
Hopefully we'll follow it up with some classes too for people now
Oh,
next year.
yeah. That would be
And that's what we're
amazing.
working on at the moment, as to how to actually make the food, so people are
Yeah,
confident about
yeah.
making tasty food, because you do have to invest in a few new ingredients and that.
Hmm.
So it's important then that you spend money on that it works,
Yeah, I know.
that you
Yeah,
have
exactly.
something really nice in the recipes. So
Yeah,
yes,
that's
so
really cool.
that's where my head is at the moment. I am
Yeah.
deeply into this
Oh, it's amazing.
culinary experience.
But what's so beautiful is just how, like, it's the accumulative effect of like the many, many years that you have been working and creating Cornucopia. And what was the year that you actually set it up? What was
86.
86? That was the year before I was born.
January 86.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually on the 11th of November 1985. I remember Neil and I finally got the keys to 19 Wicklow Street. I remember collecting them at the solicitors, having harassed him for 3 months beforehand every day. It was, can we have it? Can we have it? Can we have it? So that time it was great to get into that premises. So it was a dry cleaners and a shoe repairs. It was in bits, it was in smithereens. And so we built it up day by day since. And 10 years ago, we got the building beside us, which was 4 floors over basement, a beautiful Georgian building, number 20 Wicklow Street. Again, a bit ramshackle, and the upper floors. So we've been renovating it into a restaurant space, bit by bit, over the past decade.
Yeah, and it's so
now
beautiful.
Darina, who's my daughter, my younger daughter, I have Roisin and Darina, she is now the general manager. Yeah. So it's been wonderful to have a new business partner, because I have not had one since Neil had passed. So so we're carrying on, and still feeding the people who walk in the door.
But you must have seen like so much of a change since like the late 80s to now, in terms of like how plant-based is becoming so popular, and as you were saying, it's how we're evolving. Like what has that been like to witness that through the decades?
It's great. It's amazing how, luckily, Neil and I worked at the Hippocrates Health Institute in Boston when we lived there, because we lived in Boston for 10 years. So the Hippocrates Health Institute was ahead of its time in that it was advocating veganism and healing through raw veganism. So that was our introduction to vegetarianism. We jumped straight to raw vegan. Yeah. And then, so the consciousness and the awareness that people who worked at the Hippocrates had, so that was 40 years ago, is now becoming mainstream. So they were a little ahead of the curve. I think we were very blessed to come across them and to be in a position in our 20s to adopt those levels of awareness about how we need to live in the world. Yeah. And so slowly then we came back to Ireland and we set up a whole food shop. Yeah. That was our original. So we were going along that continuum and finding a practical place to start. And also, I don't think you can be too ahead of the masses.
I know.
That you have to provide where they're at. But slowly, people have been inching forward towards greater awareness about food and eating plant-based food and the healing that comes with food, and the consciousness about the environment, the consciousness about how we treat other species on this planet, the consciousness about food waste, the power of the consumer, what we decide when we spend our money. Every time we spend money, we're supporting a problem or a solution. Yeah. So it's being aware. It's probably hard to keep that in one's awareness all the time. Yeah. And it also is so much easier when it's available to you. So there's such an important role for providers of services and providers of products, in that people, I think it was Michelle Obama said, people eat what's in their nose bag. When we're hungry, we'll eat what's in front of us. Yeah. So providing something that's part of the solution in the nose bag for people is so important. That's why I really welcome all the vegan industry, all the vegan enterprises that are starting, all the startups, all the products that are there. And one thing I will say, however, though, is that health has always been as important as veganism and vegetarianism to Cornucopia. So eating highly processed vegan food is not something I think is a long-term solution. No. It depends on where you're coming from. From a philosophical point of view, if your goal is to minimize suffering in the world and have great compassion for other species, of course, eating vegan is a good thing. Yeah. But for the longer term, it's important to have the health of the human as well as veganism in mind, in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely. So I have lots of thoughts about all of that, but and again, not intimidating people. People have to move from where they are to the next step. Totally. And I love that about Cornucopia, in that it's not like a place that you have to be plant-based or you have to be anything. It's just like you just come in and enjoy this food. There's no like feeling of you have to be anywhere other than where you are. So it's just
it's a great place to like introduce yourself to it. And if you're going to start transitioning into having more plant-based, it's like to actually realize like it's not just about eating boring salads that are just like, you know, a bit of lettuce and a tomato. That there's like so many amazing creative ways that you can make meals, and they're so delicious.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
encouraging people. One of the things I think people have really liked about Cornucopia is the hot dinners. You
Yeah.
know, the sort of, stuffed aubergine, or the casserole, or the curry, or
Yeah.
we had vegan quiche on last week, which was just
Mm.
so delicious. The lovely pastry base,
Oh,
and then
yum.
a lovely quiche that Tony has created. So it's very egg-like and
Yeah.
very satisfying. So it's satisfying, tasty food
Yeah.
that makes you feel a bit loved and a
Oh, I
bit
love it.
nourished, I suppose.
Yeah.
So
Big time.
yeah, so
Love
that's
that.
what we have provided
Yeah.
in a way that's very casual. So there's
Mhm.
not a huge commitment. You can come in by yourself and stare out at the people passing on Wicklow Street,
Yeah.
and sit by yourself in a corner, or chat to somebody, or you can
Yeah.
come in with a big gang,
Yeah.
or meet your mate or whatever. So, and now because we've opened the upper floors, we have a ground, first and second floor open. There's lots of space
Yeah.
for people to wander up with their tray and find a spot.
Yeah. It's
And I think
lovely.
people are really enjoying that in Dublin. And again, there's no agenda. We're
Yeah.
not preaching to anybody.
Yeah.
It's
That's what
there
you.
if you want to, but you won't find that much information in Cornucopia. It's just about good food, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
We've kept it simple like that.
Yeah. But it's lovely. It's just the whole atmosphere is just so like wholesome and just so nourishing. It's like a lovely place to just, you know, if you're having a busy day and you're in the city, it's just lovely to just go there and have a meal and just, yeah, just
Yeah.
have a
I'm
bit of.
delighted with the upper floors because they're so
Yeah.
beautiful. They were a Georgian home back in the 18th
Yeah.
century. The house was built in the 1750s.
Hmm.
So I imagine the upper floors, which are now dining areas, were bedrooms.
Oh, yeah.
And there was the main sitting room area. The piano nobile was on the first floor.
Hmm.
So basically it's got beautiful cornice ceilings and old fireplaces, and I'm very interested in history myself, and this has been really interesting for me, the history of Dublin, to
Yeah.
see that this place was built in 1750, sort of
Wow.
before so many things that happened in Irish history.
Mm.
And that that when you look at the actual bricks, there's horsehair in the bricks. Who were those horses?
Yeah.
Who were the people that laid those bricks? When you go up to the attic space, you think
Wow.
1750. It's a long time before the 1798 rebellion, before the Act of Union, before the famine, before all those big things that took place,
Mm.
before 1916, all those things that took place in Dublin's history
Yeah.
that house was there, and all those homes and houses, and they're so beautiful. And to
Mm.
open up the upper floors to the public, I think has just been a great achievement. I really enjoy that in
Yeah. It's so
Georgian Dublin.
special. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's been nice.
But I think, you know, for me, in terms of like that message of moving from fear to trust, you really symbolize that for me in terms of like, you know, coming back to Ireland in Dublin in the recession, you know, and starting up your business at that time. You know, what was it like just the passion for it? Like what was kind of going through your minds, both yourself and Neil, like what
I
were you
think we
thinking?
wanted babies.
Yeah.
And we wanted to settle down. We were in our early 30s, so we were at that stage in our life.
Yeah.
We wanted to be back around our own families and parents. We
Hmm.
sort of rebelled against our parents, done all that, gone away for a decade, and now couldn't wait to get back to them. We were
Yeah.
that generation,
Yeah.
and we wanted to, set up a family. So that was probably paramount in
Hmm.
our minds coming back. And so we had big ideas that we were going to open up a healing center. It was going to be beside the sea and up a mountain, and it was going to be amazing. But then the practicalities of finances,
Hmm.
what we should do. And eventually we decided, I think we should just open up a shop,
Yeah.
a health food shop. And we were very lucky to get that premises on Wicklow Street. It was a great location. It
Hmm.
was a deep recession at the time, 1984.
Yeah.
So 85. So nobody wanted those premises because Ireland was in deep recession. So we were very lucky to get into that spot.
Yeah.
So I think that was so a recession can bring advantage also. It's very difficult maybe to get going when the economy is booming.
Hmm.
So then Ireland came out of recession slowly, and we grew with that
Yeah.
and that, so that was a help. We didn't have much business experience. We were really
Hmm.
leading with our hearts,
Yeah.
and that can get you to a certain point, I think,
Hmm.
leading with your heart. And it's always important to have a lot of heart and compassion
Yeah.
in your business. But what I have learned over the years and through the last recession, where a lot of people helped me,
Mm-hmm.
People loaned me money. I had assets that I was able to help to support the business. It really was like a tsunami when it arrived. And I think it depended on where you were. I think we were up a hill a bit.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't right on the beach,
Yeah.
or we would have been swept away. It was really, many ways, the luck of the draw. But I suppose karmically, if you have lots of, I don't know, support, and like,
Mm-hmm.
again, like when Neil passed away, people were supportive,
Yeah.
and institutions were supportive and loaned me money, and I paid back all of it, I think. And so far, well, I'm in the process of it still. So it was a bit of a wealth wrecker. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. And a
Yeah.
lot of people of my generation are left carrying a lot of debt,
Mm-hmm.
including myself, I will say, in
Yeah.
order to have survived that. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I'm glad every day that we did,
Mm-hmm.
and we have grown to be a bigger business. We were sort of growing through the recession, because prior to the recession, I had acquired a lease on the building next door and the funds to renovate it.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that lucky fact, I
Yeah.
was able to grow and get more seats. And
Yeah.
more seats are what restaurants need. You need
Yeah.
plenty of seating capacity,
Yeah.
which we have now, because that
Yeah.
allows the sales. So I have become much more grounded, I think, as an individual
Mm-hmm.
and as a personality in practicalities. And
Yeah.
I think that has been good, because I would tend to be very visionary
Yeah.
and very spiritual and very in my heart
Yeah.
and very empathetic and compassionate, and think that that will get me, think
Mm-hmm.
that that will be enough to get me places, and it will carry you. And it's really important to have the balance. But also, I'm learning more about business. I did an ACCA course and diploma in financial management
Mm-hmm.
at one stage, and that really helped me set up the systems. And
Yeah.
then I was able to have wonderful people come into Cornucopia, and I still am, who are
Yeah.
very numbers focused and make sure that everything gets paid, and that
Yeah.
we pay all our taxes, and we pay our rates, and we have the money there for the wages and the money for the suppliers. And
Mm-hmm.
I listened to this podcast a lot, called independentrestaurant.com. They're an American organization, and they, boy oh boy, just use an American expression, do they get you to look at your margins and numbers and tell you, listen, you can have the best product in the world,
Yeah.
you can have the best service in the world, you can be doing the greatest thing, but unless you have your numbers right, forget
Mm-hmm.
it.
Forget it.
Good intentions alone
Mm-hmm.
are not enough to run a business.
Yeah.
So I think it has been good for me, in that it has grounded me very much in the here and
Mm-hmm.
now and
Yeah.
practicalities.
Yeah.
So it's getting the balance right, I suppose,
Yeah.
between having the passion and the vision and
Mm-hmm.
good heart, and treating people, customers, staff, suppliers, with compassion and with understanding, and at the same time knowing how much to charge and
Yeah.
when to pay.
That's huge though,
It's
isn't it? Because I think when you are like
huge step.
passion led, and I can really relate to this, it's just like the numbers and all that kind of financial side of it is, it's kind of scary. It's like, oh my gosh, nobody really shows you how to do this. Like, I know you kind of learn the basics in school. I wasn't particularly mathematical, so I didn't really pay
Me
that much
neither.
attention. But that's a
On my
huge part.
fingers, I still count on my fingers.
Yeah. But it's like that's a huge part of like, and in this journey of moving from fear to trust, and it's really people who are like visionaries and really want to bring in like positive change. But you also have to, as you were saying, it has to be grounded in the physical practicalities of what you have to do, and to make everything actually work in the physical.
Yes, and then there's a lot of legislation, a lot of legalities that
Mm-hmm.
one needs to be very aware of also. A
Yeah.
lot of practicalities like hygiene, HACCP, health and safety,
Yeah.
fire safety. Let me think, all to do with revenue law, corporation law, what it means to be director of a company.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I love to do things like this, because it brings me, and the cookbook award and talks and that, because it brings me back into where I get my motivation, because I'll be spending a lot of my week now deep in the practicalities. But there's
Yeah.
some part of me knows that that's something I need to learn.
Yeah.
I need to be, in order to make your vision happen. I
Mm-hmm.
suppose if you went into politics, it would be the same thing. You could go into politics with the greatest vision in the world, and then you're going to hit a force field of practicalities, and really how little you can actually maneuver within those
Mm-hmm.
other forces.
Yeah.
But yet sometimes I think great passion has to break through this. I remember when
Yeah.
I was trying to acquire the building next door to us, I came across so many closed doors, and I just didn't take no for an answer, because I knew that we had to grow.
Yeah.
This was in maybe 2003,
Mm-hmm.
2004. This was way before the recession.
Yeah.
I knew we had to get bigger, and we couldn't go up, and we couldn't go to one side. The only answer was to go into number 20 Wicklow Street, which was then the sheepskin shop.
Yeah.
And finally, after me asking many, many times, the owner of that lease passed it to me. And I'm very grateful to him. And there was tragedy in his life, and that was the reason he did it. So it's funny, one person's loss can be the other person's gain. But however, then I was told we couldn't have a restaurant in there because it was not zoned as restaurant. So we had to be refused, go to a big through planning appeals. I had to work hire a planner, get a petition going. Then I had to do something else with the city council. They owned the building. So I had to go to a lot of meetings and just stay determined. And sometimes if you're really determined, individuals will move things for you.
It's interesting,
because they feel that and they want to be part of it.
Yeah.
They like it.
But
they like it when somebody comes along and says, I want to do something different. And if they seem grounded and that they can deliver.
Yeah,
and that they will pay you at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's really a great way for us all. Like, just hearing you say that is like moving from fear to trust. Is like, the fear is when you get the no, or the door is closed in your face, and it's like trusting in like the process of what you're here to do, and have that kind of inner knowing that even though it might not come through easy, that it's like you're able to just keep going.
You have that trust.
You have that trust.
Also, I think when you know that you're on the right path,
yes,
you have a huge amount of trust.
That's
so
huge.
You're definitely going to be scared.
Yeah.
And you're definitely going to be rattling.
Yeah.
3 in the morning when you wake up and think, holy guacamole.
I know. Yeah.
How will I pay that? Or
Yeah.
how will I do that? Or maybe they won't work out. But then if you have the trust, you just go along. And I think, Thich Nhat Hanh and all of that about being in the moment. If you're fully in the moment, and don't forget, people do business with people.
Yeah.
So I think whoever you're dealing with, have respect for that individual. Wherever that, whoever they are in business in particular, have respect and recognize the humanity in every single person that you deal with.
Yeah.
Even if they seem adversarial, is that the word?
Yeah.
To recognize and look them in the eye and not be intimidated, and realize that you're trying to do something good. So therefore, there must be a way that it can happen in a win-win way. Maybe it's going to take a bit longer, but it will get there eventually.
Oh, I love
that. So sometimes I think having the long view helps. There's no panic.
Yeah.
And I think my nature is to be fairly relaxed.
Yeah.
I can't say that I haven't suffered from anxiety through all of this process from time to time.
Yeah.
I certainly have, to be honest, particularly during the recession. Getting into a state of high anxiety. I remember Deepak Chopra helped me a lot.
Yeah.
At that time, I became a big fan of, not Deepak Chopra, sorry. He helped me also with his 7 spiritual laws of success. But Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
Tolle helped me a lot with his mindfulness, and then Thich Nhat Hanh. So again, as I did when Neil passed, in times of great adversity, and fear, going back to all of those spiritual things. And I do remember also, love is letting go of fear. Keeping that in my mind. I remember reading a book called Love is Letting Go of Fear. And this book was saying that this is a book we had in Cornucopia right when we opened. And basically there are 2 emotions. And everything sort of comes under these 2 subsections, if you like. And one is love and one is fear. And it's actually impossible to feel both of those emotions at the same time. So, if you're fearful and somebody gives you an embrace, say, and you feel love, the fear will go. So you can put everything under those 2 subsections. Probably a certain amount of fear is good.
Yeah.
A certain amount of stress is good because it's natural.
Yeah.
And you have to watch your back and be careful, and bad things do happen to good people.
Yeah.
And all of that. So a certain amount is healthy. It would be completely not wrong to be fearless. You could imagine a person like that. So it's important to be a little bit focused. Creates a bit of focus. It creates a bit of adrenaline.
Yeah.
It probably creates a bit of those hormones which help with keeping you focused and strong. But going to places of love. So if you're dealing with somebody who's angry with you, or suppose I had a conflict with an employee, or that, imagine that scenario where somebody was disappointed because, I don't know, they didn't get a promotion or they thought they did, and blah, blah, blah. If you love that person when you're talking to them, if you put yourself, and body language is so important, I would say, not to cross your arms, not to put a piece of furniture between you and another person, is to really, people will calm and go out of fear when they feel love. And that love mightn't be hugging them, that might not be appropriate, but it could be respect.
Yeah.
Even something along those lines. Or really listening. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts recently on handling customer complaints and mistakes.
Yeah. Again,
with the restaurant owner.com that I listen to in America for independent restaurants. So if a customer, a guest, is upset, it's very important. There's 3 stages to responding. And again, it's all about respect for the person. It's not about defensiveness. It's to acknowledge and accept that they have had, their meal is cold or not tasty, or they're disappointed in some way, or the staff member wasn't as good as they should have been, or whatever happened, that was a mistake. And it always will happen. And they're teaching you, be grateful. Gratitude is really important, because they're actually taking the time to explain to you that something happened and maybe it would happen for somebody else. So again, you're in the love area rather than the fear. You're not defensive. You don't go into fear. So you acknowledge. It's the first part. There's 3 parts. You apologize. That's the second part. I'm really sorry. That must be really disappointing. You traveled a long way to get here and now you're disappointed.
Yeah.
We have no vegan quiche. We advertised that we did.
We advertised that. It was on, everyone rushed in, and it was just, and
it's all gone.
Yeah.
So you say, I'm sorry, and you apologize. I'm really, and then you make reparation. So you say, again, no defensiveness, no fear. Well, can we give you a voucher so that when you come back the next time, you can have vegan quiche? And I promise we'll have it on tomorrow, and we'll save a piece for you.
Yeah.
So again, it's stepping out of fear and into love. And I'm trying to remember, I think it's A Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
That the love is letting go of fear comes from.
Yeah.
And back when I was in Hippocrates all those years ago, people were going to workshops on A Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, what's that?
Yeah.
And I remember them telling me about it.
Yeah.
And then I remember some of the offshoot books that came out of it. So one of them was that. Yeah, I always remember that.
Well, actually, the whole theme of moving from fear to trust is actually based on the study that I've done with a spiritual teacher. I trained in a healing modality called Belvaspata, which is called healing of the heart. And so it goes through like all these 12 pure emotions. And so for moving out of fear, the emotions of love and trust actually pulse together.
Love and trust.
So that's why I have it like moving from fear to trust is when you can trust, then you can expand into love. And it's like those two, they deepen each other. So it's like when you trust, you can love, so it's just kind of having that framework and actual ability to tune into that when you are in those situations that bring up a huge amount of fear.
You're very important. Love and trust and good and true are other sort of aspects of love and trust. When something is good and it's true. Yeah. Then another twins that are so important is love and wisdom in equal measure. So having love and having wisdom is really, really important combination, because if you love and you're unwise, it isn't really enough. So when I was growing up, I was taught that love was everything. I wasn't taught that wisdom was equally important. Yeah. So they're both, I suppose, come from the divine. You could say love and wisdom. They're another set of twins that if you are sort of aware of them or bringing them into your field, that they will keep you safe.
Totally. Yeah.
So you're wise.
Yeah. And you need that. And I'll weave it back to what we first spoke about at the start, was having that wisdom is like, you were able to pass that piece on. It's like, being a wisdom keeper. I don't know if you've heard that phrase. And you were able to pass that on to me when I was like, I'm in the hole, I don't know. And you're like offering that piece of wisdom, but it's like, it's up to me then to take responsibility with that piece of wisdom and actually apply it in a
Absolutely.
practical sense.
Yeah, because in a way, when somebody that we're very close to passes, we pass too.
Yeah.
So the old Ashling, that was the daughter,
Yeah.
had actually gone. So it was sort of coming to terms with that, your
Mm.
sort of immortality.
Yeah.
And then a new part of yourself needed to be
Mm.
born, the more grown-up Ashling,
Yeah.
the one who isn't so, twinned with
Mm-hmm.
her mother, but is more
Yeah.
of an individual. So you had to
Yeah.
become bigger,
Yeah.
take up that space
Yeah.
and grow and all that. Because that was the wisdom. But a lot of people taught me when it was my turn. And I
Mm.
learned a lot from books. I remember a book called All in the End is Harvest, which is a
Yeah.
book of prose and poetry that really helped me,
Mm-hmm.
about death and loss.
Yeah.
So I found that really good. I'm trying to think who else. All I remember is how good my group of friends were to me.
Mm.
Looking back at that period, they showed me such love. And what
Yeah.
I learned was the wisdom piece I brought is I learned who could give me what. Now,
Mm-hmm.
some people are very practical and they'll come and, they'll mind the children.
Yeah.
And other people will sit and chat to you. So how are you feeling? And other people, I remember one woman who used to come to me every Monday, just after the funeral, and say, let's go to the pictures. I want to collect you on a Monday night. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not very good at talking. I don't even want you to bring a handbag or just put a brush through your hair and walk out the door and bring the money for the pictures and we'll go to the pictures. And I remember I would
Yeah.
wake up on Monday morning and think, I'm going to the pictures tonight.
Yeah.
And that really helped.
Yeah.
Somebody else I remember straight after Neil's funeral cooked me a meal, a
Mm.
really beautiful meal. And I couldn't believe that food could taste good.
Yeah.
I was kind of a bit taken aback that
Mm-hmm.
I was still alive. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's really a bit mind blowing is that life and death are very different. And when
Mm-hmm.
somebody passes through the veil of death, they're not accessible to us in the ordinary way.
Yeah.
But we're still here.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly because I was so young, I remember after Neil passed, I was coming up to my 40th birthday. And I was thinking, my God, I could have 50 more years on this planet. How long is 50 years? I really
Mm-hmm.
better get my act together.
I know. Yeah.
Because what are you going to do? Become bitter? Now,
I
I
know.
think also a thing I will say about great stress is
Mm.
that one has a choice to become bitter also. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can see that with people, even young people.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't have a loss of a human being, but they have loss of opportunity, loss of a life. Say somebody has to stay home and mind an elderly parent and never gets an opportunity to travel or live
Mm-hmm.
or have their own family, or I don't know why that thing pops into my head. But bitterness is something that is a human choice, and people can become embittered.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where racism comes from. It's being
Mm.
bitter that we
Yeah.
didn't get enough opportunities and now we're having to share with the other. So that's not fair.
Yeah.
So therefore, we don't like the other,
Yeah.
who's coming
Mm-hmm.
in and taking some of what we have, a sort of scarcity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's always, again, for me, it's like boils down to like that choice element, doesn't it? You can
Yeah.
choose.
Yeah, you can choose. You have a choice at every moment,
Yeah.
and you have a choice to stay calm and to trust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and fear is very crippling,
Yes.
and trust and wisdom and love and the antidotes are very powerful.
Mm.
So again, why did you choose fear to trust as the thing to hang all your work on?
Yeah, well,
Hang
it came from a conversation that my mom and I had. It was actually the summer of 2017, and we were talking about, like, the campaign and like how are we going to evolve the message and how are we going to reach people to kind of bring them out of that old paradigm of being separate to the water, being separate to the outside, that there's like this separation consciousness that's kind of running through all of these things. And we just were like brainstorming, like, what do we share, what is our message? And we literally just wrote it out, and it was like, we are here to help people move from fear to trust. And then it's like, once we can get them on the stepping stone of trust, they can move to all the other spaces of
trusting in what?
trust
Specific to
trust
say the fluoride campaign.
not even trusting in that, but trusting in the, like, how life is evolving through you as a person who has become aware of an issue like fluoride, has become aware of issues in the environment that are, you know, not productive or not helpful for human health. And so where do you go with that? Like, because I think when you start to awaken, you're really coming from the known into the unknown. And so if you to keep taking those steps into the unknown, it's like what you've done with Cornucopia. It was the unknown, but each time you bring that into form, it becomes the known, but you have to trust in a path that you can't see yet.
Yes.
So really it was like, it's a call for people to take their journey into their unknown. And that's obviously going to be completely unique for everybody. But I think that everybody has a piece. It's like you have a piece that has become a massive piece in the collective consciousness, you know, but it's like we all have that piece within us.
We do. Certainly a great mission for you to carry forward.
Yeah.
As a beacon, something that you created together.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. So you are very motivated now because you and your mother created that to carry on with that work.
Yeah.
Of helping people move from fear to trust.
Yeah, exactly.
And having therefore courage to create change, positive change.
Positive change, yeah, for ourselves as individuals and also for our communities and, you know, the collective. So yeah.
And where's your source of strength then, may I ask?
Oh yeah, well, I think my source of strength comes from really my connection to the divine, my connection to source.
Yes.
That's where the strength comes from.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. You were you liked a particular Facebook page one time.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I wonder what this is that Aisling liked, and it was on Swedenborg.
Mm-hmm.
And so I then explored it.
Yeah.
And I found it very interesting. It's a Christian group based on an 18th century philosopher called Emanuel Swedenborg. I would have rejected Christianity in like a lot of vegetarian types in favor of more Eastern philosophies like Buddhism and that. I would have been brought up an Irish Catholic and rejected all that when I went to Trinity College in the early 70s and then on into the States, and I was very politically on the left and all of that. So being a believer in any kind of divine was definitely not part of that philosophy.
Yeah.
You know, the opium of the people and that. And then through my veganism and fasting and all that, I sort of came back into a more Eastern philosophy of religion, which I still love and value incredibly, and it makes up a huge part of me. But then it was through you, Aisling, and then this group, and I think because my mother passed, who I have such love for and such a connection with, and she was such, you know, a devout, sort of Christian in the most beautiful sense. She spoke Irish a lot, and she had in it as she sort of her mind went into senility. She spoke Irish all the time. And she had this wonderful. She used to say prayers, Hail Marys, Our Fathers, and the Angel of God. When she was falling asleep. And so I started praying with her again. And I think it made me feel more affectionately towards Christianity.
Yeah.
So then this Swedenborg I have found really valuable that's where I got the love and wisdom, being equal or good and true. And that it's something very interesting. You might explore it yourself. But it's wonderful that we live in a world of tolerance where we're allowed to explore different spiritual traditions. And we're not forced into orthodoxy. Or believing that one is superior to the next.
Yeah, totally. I love that. It's just that
we're very blessed, and we're very blessed as women to live in a part of the world where we're allowed to express our full humanity.
Yeah, it's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, massive. I love that word. It's massive.
It's massive. But I think so kind of, just like for me to kind of really take in what your message is like how, yes, obviously having like being very grounded in the physical sense, but I think also the trust piece of like always like, because you know you're still going into the unknown, you're still exploring new uncharted territory with your work, you know, you're bringing in new ideas and new ventures now, and that's like I think that's a continuous process. But I think having that connection to source, the divine, you know, having that peace, I think is also very important, so that you don't just get lost in the physical.
Well, I'm more inclined, my problem, I have so much vision. I have so many ideas even still as to where Cornucopia could go. So many. And for me, the work has been making it happen in the here and now and in the
Yeah.
physical.
Yeah.
That's my big lesson,
Mm-hmm.
that I have to slow down
Yeah.
and say, okay, well, we can't, that's going to take 2 years. Like the
Yeah.
second cookbook took 11 years
Yeah.
before we finally stepped up on that stage there and accepted our great accolade on Post
Yeah.
Cookbook of the Year. I mean, that was, now that we weren't working on it for the whole 11 years, but we published our last cookbook 11 years previous to that.
Yeah.
And in 10 years, then we expanded the business into the building next door. And so there's been a lot of, and I did set up another company, you might remember, the juice business.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say that with
We were
Erica,
selling
isn't
products. Hopefully we'll go back to that one day. It
Yeah.
wasn't the right timing at the
Yeah.
moment for us.
Yeah.
And all of that. So yeah, we have to
Yeah.
trust in that journey.
I know, like, you have to trust in the process, because it's like, as you say, as if you are very expanded in your vision, you can get just like, oh my gosh, there's so many millions of things that I can do. But it's like, you know, you can't do all the things either.
It's like you're pressing a wall and it's a blank wall. And if you press enough, then suddenly you press the right thing and the door opens.
Yeah.
Abracadabra.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was like, so for the cookbook, we kept
Yeah.
trying and trying. And then one day it was the right combination of people. Aoife Carrigan,
Yeah.
if I can mention her, an amazing food book writer.
Yeah.
Tony Keogh, our amazing head chef. And suddenly Cornucopia was in the place to allow the two of them, and they produced this amazing book.
Amazing.
You know, whereas we had tried previously with
Yeah.
other combinations, and they were really good people. James de Burka and Sammy, who worked in Cornucopia,
Yeah.
Sammy Murphy, and they tried so hard, but somehow it's not the right time or the right combination or the right
Yeah.
publisher. Sometimes, do you ever notice that things flow
Yeah.
so easily?
Yeah.
Other times they're incredibly uphill.
Yes.
So you've got to trust that eventually it will flow.
Yes. Yeah. And also the piece of, like, if it's not flowing, perhaps it isn't the right timing, or maybe the right people, or, you know, whatever. It's like, you have to be able to make that call as well, don't you? And go,
Yes, and that's the wisdom part.
That's the wisdom part. That's wonderful. Thank you. And Deirdre, I could actually speak to you all day, because I just love delving into topics with you. And
yeah, we're
I'm
very
just
similar in our,
in that regard. But so let everyone know where they can find you and get the cookbook and
19
all that.
Wicklow Street, Cornucopia, www.cornucopia.ie. And we're there, and our cookbook is available. I'm sure it's available on Amazon. It was published by Gill.
Yeah.
And Cornucopia, we're moving more into the plant-based dishes, and we'll have our cookery classes in our new space upstairs next year, 2020. And we'll see how it goes. We'll carry on.
Amazing. Thank you
We'll
so
trust.
much. Yeah.
We'll trust. And I think we need to really trust, I'll say on the last thing, that we can sort this environmental crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to really trust that we can make that the humans can evolve.
Yeah.
Whatever that involves. So not to be too fearful.
Yeah. That's huge, isn't it?
That's huge. And it's quite challenging and work with the young people and make the changes that are necessary.
Yeah.
Everybody in their own way.
Yeah. Thanks. Perfect. Oh, thank you so much, Deirdre. This has been a total pleasure. And just thank you so much.
Talk soon, Ashley.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.